You're listening to the Health and Happiness Podcast with Travis Kemper and
Lauren Maxwell. Each episode, we share easy to implement strategies to improve your health, happiness, and overall quality of life.
Don't be a victim of negative self-talk. Remember, you are listening. Bob Proctor. How's it going, Travis?
I am getting a new truck today. So
Yay!
I'm very excited. Yeah, they're delivering it to my house.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I agree, because I bought it from Laramie, Wyoming, and it's a 4-hour drive, and I really didn't feel like making that drive.
Yeah.
So when they offered, I did not resist.
Yeah. Twist my arm. Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't even have to ask. They really wanted to sell the truck. So I was like, okay, well, I want to buy it, but I don't want to drive up there. And I think we're going camping next weekend again. We've been working on the house every weekend since our last trip at the beginning of July. For listeners, it's the end of July. It's 7/31. I just found out that there's 31 days in July. So it'll be nice to get away again. Duke did amazing this week. We let him stay out of the crate on Thursday and Friday, and he did so well.
Yay!
And then yesterday we left for like 2 hours to do some stuff at the apartment because we have a new tenant moving in, and he destroyed everything. Yeah.
Oh no! Duke!
So we still have work to do. How was your vacation, Lauren?
This is great. If you guys don't remember, Nolan and I went to California this week. We just got back on Thursday. We had such a great time. First day we went to Balboa Island and sat on the beach and read books and watched a pod of dolphins that swam around, which they were like so close to us. It was amazing.
You didn't go swim with them?
No, we didn't go. There was other people who were trying to do that, but then the dolphins were going farther away, so we were just like, we're just gonna sit and watch them. Right. So they like stayed. We had like a section of the beach where we were like kind of the only people for a while, and so I know it was weird.
That's awesome.
Never happens. But so the dolphins were staying like right in our little area because we weren't going into the water, but like the people on either side of us were like trying to go get the dolphins. So we just got to watch. It was cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, and then the next 2 days we went to theme parks, both Knott's Berry Farms and Disney. And I don't think I ever realized how tame Disney's roller coasters are until I went to Knott's. Holy cow. I was so nervous to do some of the coasters at Knott's, but they were actually so much fun. And I thought it would be interesting to track my heart rate while I was in line for one of like the big roller coasters to see just how high it got, like with my anticipation and my nerves. And it actually spiked to 150 before I even got on the ride.
That's crazy. Wow.
It was so funny. I was like watching it consistently rise as I got closer and closer to like getting on it.
Did you also do it like when you were going up? Like, did you do any of the ones where it's the long climb up?
I didn't. I was too scared to like. I had it going, but I like didn't even look at it.
You did the roller coasters.
I did the roller coaster.
Okay, good. I thought you were going to say you were too scared to do those roller coasters.
No, I was too scared to like do anything. I was like, my strategy, because it was the one that was going like straight up and then like drop straight down. My strategy was just to count the seconds that it took me to get all the way to the top because I was so terrified in that moment. I felt like I was going to fall backwards out of my seat. It was like the scariest thing ever.
Yeah, I don't like that part of the roller coaster very much. I think it's for me. I have a little fear of heights, obviously.
Me too.
And it's probably better now. I can't remember the last time I was at an amusement park, if we even did. Like the last one we were at was Universal in Florida. And I don't know if they had any of those long chugga, click, click, click lifts. But if we did them, I wasn't scared. But in the past, I would have to just like look forward or talk to the person next to me because it freaked me out. And I think it was because
so scary.
There's the stairs beside you when you're going up. So I always think like I could get out now and still live, versus like when we're going down, it's like, well, at this point I'm dead if it crashes, so I might as well have fun.
Yeah, it is. The like going up part is terrifying. I don't know. I was just like the most trust I've ever put in a like harness around me, because I going up was not in the seat. I was only against the harness, like falling backwards. And then, so this one was called Hang Time. So it like took you all the way up to the top and then like leaned you forward over the lip. So and it holds you there for 5 seconds. Hang time. And so
Nice.
then you go from like falling backwards out of your seat to you're only like on the harness falling forward for 5 seconds, and then it drops you. And I thought, I was like convinced I was going to die until we were done dropping. And then it was fun. And then we did like 3 flips, but I don't mind flips. Flips are fine. Drops are not my thing. But anyway, so yeah, then we went to Disney after that, and it was like, wow, I could fall asleep on these coasters. Like, this is so easy, but
Totally different type of park.
totally different. And we got to meet up with my stepbrother and my niece at Knott's Berry Farm, which also made it a lot of fun. We got to see them later in the day and did some of the little like kiddie rides with my niece, who's 3 years old, and so cute. Oh my gosh, she's so cute. So yeah, it was a great trip.
Awesome.
So what are we going to talk about today, Travis?
Well, one of our most downloaded episodes is our 4th episode of this podcast. So we thought we should revisit it. One, we should be better at this now. We have like 70 plus episodes of experience under our belt since then. And 2, obviously, if it's one of our most downloaded episodes,
It's worth talking about again.
yeah, exactly. People want to hear about it, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
So negative self-talk. Learn. What is negative self-talk?
Negative self-talk is any inner dialogue that you have with yourself that may be limiting your ability to believe in yourself and your own abilities and to reach your potential. It is any thought that diminishes your ability to make positive changes in your life or your confidence in yourself to do so. Most people experience negative self-talk at times. I know I do. But researchers have estimated that 60 to 80,000, wait, oh my gosh, that's a lot. 60 to 80,000 thoughts per day, and 80% of them are estimated. 80% are estimated to be negative.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
You do a lot of thinking.
I mean, that's not surprising. My brain is not a quiet place to be in. Like, I would not want anybody else to sit in my head because it's a lot.
I agree. I constantly have questions.
I just have like thoughts, lots of thoughts. Anyway, so what does negative self-talk sound like for you, Travis?
For me, it was usually like, you're an idiot. I've gotten much better at it through some strategies that we'll talk about later. But usually it was like, you're an idiot. And it was about stupid stuff. Like, I forget my keys. Like, I don't know where I put my keys. I couldn't tell you where my keys are today. My wife yells at me all the time. Not yells. She doesn't yell. But she's like, why don't you use this key hook that I put on the wall right inside the door? And I just don't do it. Instead, I throw them wherever. And what happens is I'll throw them on the counter or on the table, and then the mail will come and be put on top of them. Yeah, and then they disappear for 20 minutes before I find them when I'm trying to leave. So, yeah. So in those times, I would say, you're such an idiot. How do you lose stuff all the time? Stupid stuff like that.
Yeah.
What's it sound like for you, Lauren?
I'm pretty sure I talked about this in the first, like the original episode, and my negative thoughts like still sound the same, although they are less often, but still there for sure. I'm not perfect. I still have things to work on. So for me, it sounds like not enough, like not good enough, not strong enough, not smart enough, not small enough, just like in general, like not enough. And I think a lot of this is really closely intertwined with a lot of the things that we've been talking about lately on the podcast, like my fear of failure, my perfectionist and people-pleasing tendencies. A lot of that like stems from, or like, I don't know if it stems, what is chicken or the egg? Like, I don't know what comes first, but they're very intertwined. Another thing I talked about on our original episode of Negative Self-Talk was Brene Brown. A friend had sent me a YouTube video a while ago of a TED Talk of Brene Brown, who is a prominent researcher on shame, vulnerability, and leadership, where she talked about the difference between shame versus guilt. And she defines guilt as the belief or the feeling that you made a mistake, and shame being the feeling that you are a mistake. And I remember watching this video and and crying because I realized how much shame I carry. Like, that was shame that I carry from these beliefs that I hold about myself. And these stories that I tell myself of not being worthy or not being enough. And it was a really, like, for me, a big eye-opening moment of how much these thoughts were impacting me.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Brutal. And I don't think I had ever, like, realized that, like, that's how I felt until somebody said it out loud. And then I was like, oh. But anyway, yeah. So icky feelings.
So we had another episode 21. We talked about the negativity bias that we possess in our psychology and how the news feeds off that negativity bias to hook us with their stories. We had a lot of information on that and how watching the news makes you depressed, anxious, all that stuff. I think we talked about the massive amount of kidnappings that weren't real. When we were children, that led to parents not letting their kids play outside for decades now.
Yeah.
So yeah, if unchecked, your brain does the exact same thing. Your brain's going to focus on the negatives too, which leads to more negative self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
Consequences of negative self-talk are, well, as you could probably guess by now, substantial. Like, Lauren's comments to herself were that she was a mistake.
Yeah.
That's not a great place to come from, I guess.
Nope. That's not a great belief about yourself for sure.
No. So negative self-talk can affect us in some pretty damaging ways. A large-scale study found that rumination and self-blame over negative events were linked to increased risk of mental health problems. Researchers have found that negative self-talk is correlated with anxiety, lower self-esteem, and focusing on negative thoughts may lead to decreased motivation as well as greater feelings of helplessness. This type of critical inner dialogue has been linked to depression as well. So basically, most mental health problems, at least common ones. Those who find themselves frequently engaging in negative self-talk tend to be more stressed. This is in large part due to the fact that the reality is altered to create an experience where they don't have the ability to reach the goals they've set for themselves. Negative self-talk can lead to a lowered ability to see opportunities as well as a decreased tendency to capitalize on these opportunities. This means that the heightened sense of stress comes from both the perception and the changes in behavior that come from it. It can also lead to limited thinking. The more you tell yourself you can't do something, the more you believe in it. Perfectionism. You begin to really believe that great isn't as good as perfect and that perfection is actually attainable. In contrast, mere high achievers, I love that, tend to do better than the perfectionist counterparts because they are generally less stressed and are happy with a job well done. They don't pick it apart and try to zero in on what they could have done better. Negative self-talk also leads to relationship challenges. Whether the constant self-criticism makes you seem needy and insecure, or you turn yourself negative self-talk into more general negative habits that bother others, a lack of communication, and even a playful amount of criticism can take its toll.
All aspects of your life. I feel like that's what that's saying. It affects all aspects of your life.
Yeah, pretty much sums it up.
Yeah. So positive self-talk. One of the most obvious drawbacks of negative self-talk is that it's not positive, which I know that sounds totally obvious. But my point is that research has shown that positive self-talk is a great predictor of success. One study on athletes compared 4 different types of self-talk: instructional, motivational, positive, and negative, and found that positive self-talk was the greatest predictor of success. People didn't need to remind themselves how to do something as much as they needed to tell themselves that they were doing something great and that others noticed it as well.
That's a really interesting study.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, more than the instructional.
More than the instructional. Yeah. Like as long as they, were positive about it.
So that leads us right into, can changing my self-talk improve my life? Obviously can improve your athletic performance. Another study, you had participants use self-talk that was either motivational, neutral, negative, or negative with a challenging statement during a 20-minute cycling task. The results showed that participants who used negative self-talk, such as "my legs are tired," did much worse in the final 5 minutes of the task than those who added a challenging statement to their negative self-talk, such as "my legs are tired, but I can push through it." Another study, a systematic review of negative self-talk with kids in the classroom, found that over the 24 studies, self-talk helped children regulate task engagement and cope with social challenges.
That's awesome.
Lauren, let's go over some strategies that listeners can use to improve their self-talk.
What we all want to know, right?
That's right.
So there was an interesting study that looked at distanced self-talk and emotional regulation. So research indicates that a subtle shift in language, like silently referring to yourself using your own name, which is what they're calling distanced self-talk, promotes emotional regulation. Across 2 experiments, distanced self-talk facilitated emotional regulation when people reflected on personal experiences that varied in their emotional intensity. These results further add to a growing body of research illuminating how subtle shifts in language can be leveraged to adaptively alter a person's self-perspective in ways that have implications on how they think and feel. This is really interesting. I have used the strategy often, but I don't think I really ever realized that it was a strategy. I kind of, it's a thing that I do. I don't know. I often poke fun of myself in the third person, and usually in an attempt to make light of a situation that feels big and heavy or whatever. Emotional regulation, I guess. But it seems like this actually is a beneficial thing, which makes sense if I'm thinking about it, right? It's a way of separating yourself from being really overwhelmed and flooded by your own emotions, which is very easy for me to do. I'm a very big feeler type of person, and I get really overwhelmed by my emotions a lot. So being able to say oh, Lauren's just feeling a lot right now, it makes it able for me so that I can look at things more objectively rather than just sit and feel things that are hard.
All right, well, Travis is about to really deliver some knowledge here.
Come on, Travis, let's do it.
There are several other strategies that have also been effective for people, such as catch your critic. Learn to notice when you're being self-critical so you can begin to stop. For example, notice when you say things to yourself that you wouldn't say to a good friend or child. Remember that thoughts and feelings aren't reality necessarily. Thinking negative things about yourself may feel like astute observations, but your thoughts and feelings about yourself can definitely not be considered accurate information. Your thoughts can be skewed like everyone else's, subject to biases, and influenced by your mood. Give your inner critic a nickname. When you think of your inner critic as a force outside of yourself, such as Debbie Downer, and even give it a goofy nickname, it's not only more easy to realize that you don't have to agree. Wow, that was hard for me to say. But it also becomes less threatening and more easy to see how ridiculous some of your critical thoughts can be. Contain your negativity. If you find yourself engaging in negative self-talk, it helps to contain the damage that a critical inner voice can cause by only allowing it to criticize certain things in your life or be negative for only an hour in your day. This puts a limit on how much negativity can come from the situation.
I feel like an hour a day is a lot, but I definitely have used that strategy of like, okay, I'm gonna take the next 5 minutes to just like feel whatever I feel and say whatever I want to say, and then I gotta get on and move past it and focus on the positive.
Like, Travis has never used that strategy.
Oh, okay, Travis.
This third person thing is weird.
It's fun. I think it's funny.
Change negativity to neutrality. When engaging in negative self-talk, you may be able to catch yourself, but it can sometimes be difficult to force yourself to stop a train of thought in its tracks. It's far easier to change the intensity of the language. I can't stand this becomes this is challenging. I hate becomes I don't like. And even I don't prefer. When your self-talk uses more gentle language, much of its negative power is muted as well.
That makes sense. I actually like that one. I haven't done that one before. That's a good one. Cross-examine your inner critic. One of the damaging aspects of negative self-talk is that it often goes unchallenged. After all, if it's going on in your head, others might not be aware of what you're saying and thus can't tell you how wrong you are. So it's far better to catch your negative self-talk and ask yourself how true it is. The vast majority of negative self-talk is an exaggeration, and calling yourself on this can help to take away its damaging influence. This is one of the strategies that I have used often, although I think this is one of the harder strategies for me. Like, it's not as easy as some of the other ones, but like when I'm recognizing that I'm having a negative thought, or like I'm having a like not good enough, not smart enough, not small enough, whatever, thought, asking myself, well, like, whose story is that? Whose narrative is that I've decided to adapt and like take on? Like, why, like, whose judgment is that? Why is that like part of the story that I'm telling myself? Is that really my thought, or is that like something society or like somebody that I love made me feel like unintentionally? Like recognizing that maybe that's not my own thought, but what I think is what somebody else wants. You know what I mean?
Well, Lauren, next time, just call me and express your negative self-talk outwardly. Say it verbally to me, and I'll tell you how ridiculous it is.
Oh, thanks. That's a good idea. You're going to think I'm crazy. Actually, that's one of our strategies later, too. Say it out loud.
Is for me to think you're crazy?
Yeah. No. Treat yourself like your best friend. My favorite. This one's one of my favorites. When our inner critic is at its worst, it can sound like our worst enemy. Often we'll say things to ourselves in our heads that we would never say to a friend. Why not reverse this? And when you catch yourself speaking negatively in your head, make it a point to imagine yourself saying whatever you're saying to yourself to a treasured friend. If you know you wouldn't say it this way, think of how you'd share your thoughts with a good friend, or what you'd like a good friend to say to you. This is a great way to shift your self-talk in general. Again, one of my favorite strategies, because I am much better in general at sticking up for my friends or believing in my friends, or people I love, than I am for myself.
You have never told me that I'm not enough.
Never.
I don't think I've ever called you an idiot either. Even if you lost your keys.
That's true. You never have. Yeah, I would never say to my best friend half of the stuff that I tell myself. Like, I'm never going to say to you that you're not good enough. I'm never going to say that to any of my friends, or like anybody in general, like any human being. I don't think I would ever say that to anybody, but like definitely not my best friend. And it's not just because I'm biased, because like you're my friend, but I honestly believe like everybody is enough. Like, you're just worthy. Like, you're born worthy. Like, you just exist, and that's enough. So why is it that I can believe that everyone else is enough, but when it comes to myself, I feel like I'm not enough? So like, that's a really I mean, I got a lot to unpack there. But
I was thinking that's a really good question to answer.
That's a really good question. Yeah. But yeah, that's one of my favorite strategies to like, if I'm not unpacking that question and really getting down to the bottom of it, it's easy to be like, why, I'm not going to say that to a friend, so don't say it to myself. Anyway, shift your perspective. Sometimes looking at things in the long term can help you realize that you may be placing too great of an emphasis on something, or even examining things from a broader scale. So this is why I love like stargazing and being outside at night, or just like being outside in general. But it just like reminds me how small I am and like insignificant, not in a bad way, but like it's just a different perspective, like in the grand scheme of things. Yeah.
I miss where we live right now. I live in a city of 10,000 people. I'm still in a small town, but however, there's a lot of light pollution just in this small town. And we don't have many street lights, nothing. It's just like there's light pollution. If you get outside of town, you can see it. And where we were before this house, down 20 minutes west of here, we were in a little tiny neighborhood outside of the town, and we would look up and the stars were magnificent every single night, and I totally miss it.
Yeah,
I missed that walking, like I take Duke out to pee and just look up every night, and it was so amazing.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things. I've like always lived in like dark sky cities. Flagstaff is a dark sky city, and where I grew up, Fountain Hills is a dark sky city. And so I've like thankfully always been able to look up at night and just like see the stars, and it's like always been a strategy of mine to just kind of bring myself back to reality of like, wow, there's so much bigger things going on, like I'm small in the best way. Another strategy that Travis was already talking about was say it out loud. Sometimes when you catch yourself thinking negative thoughts in your mind, simply saying them aloud can be a great help. Call up a friend and tell them what you're thinking about, and that can often lead to a good laugh and shine a light on how ridiculous some of our negative self-talk can be.
Wow, I didn't read that one before I said that a minute ago.
Yeah, you already had a strategy for me.
I had a strategy for you. Next time you're struggling with this, just give me a call. I will tell you how ridiculous you're being.
Thanks. You can just send me a picture of the "you're enough" on your mirror.
Yeah. This was a convenient day to move to this room.
It really was.
One of my old roommates wrote "you are enough" on the mirror, and we never washed it off because it's just a good message. And Lauren saw it and was trying to read it, and I told her what it said. And then we did an episode on negative self-talk. So perfect.
It's perfect. Stars aligned.
Yes. So another strategy, one last strategy, is to replace the bad with the good. Don't replace the good with the bad, like I almost said. This is one of the best routes for combating negative self-talk. Replace it with something better. So take a negative thought and change it to something encouraging that's also accurate. So if you listen to episode 4, my strategy to get over this, I don't remember when, it's been years now, but my strategy to get over this, calling myself an idiot 25 times a day, was every time I did it, I would say 3 nice things about myself. So I would just list a couple good things about myself, accomplishments that I made. If I would say something that I don't know, I can't do that for this reason. I'm like, wait a second, I did this. Or if I say I'm an idiot, no, you're not an idiot, dude. This is how I know you're not an idiot. And I would just say 3 nice things about myself. So that's a good strategy you can use. It worked great for me. Lauren, I didn't come up with a challenge this week, so I'm going to go at this. I'm going to say a cappella, like Eminem, even though I know that that's wrong.
Okay. A cappella, sure. What?
Yeah. I'm just going to come up with one.
Ad-lib.
Ad-lib. That would be better.
Okay.
But I like a cappella better. And then I'm going to drop the mic. I'm not going to drop my mic. It's too expensive.
Mic drop.
A challenge this week. If you are struggling with negative self-talk, try one of these strategies. Try two of these strategies. Write them down to replace the good with the bad with the good. Why do I keep saying that? To replace the bad with the good if you like my strategy, or do one of the others. Call up a friend and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Maybe your friend thinks you're crazy. Call up a different friend then. That's your strategy, is to recognize your negative self-talk and try to take steps to improve your negative self-talk.
Mic drop. Or as like Gen Z says, period.
Oh, period. I never heard
Period.
that one.
I don't know. I hope they still say that. Otherwise, we're not trending.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Lauren, this was fun.
This was fun. Great job
Good
today,
job.
Travis.
Oh, you beat me to it. Great job, Lauren. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to listen to this episode of the Health and Happiness Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode and are getting benefits from our content.
If your life is improving in part due to the information in this podcast, we would greatly appreciate you sharing the episode with your family and friends on social media and leaving us a review so we can continue to reach more people and improve the health and happiness of the community at large.
Thanks again, and we will see you next week for another episode of the Health and Happiness Podcast.